Hello and welcome to the Gooner Ramble live discussion. I'm your host Giles and joining me today are regular Akhil. How you doing, mate? You alright?
Yeah, well, alright-ish. Yeah, made it out of
Suited and booted and whatnot.
sort of Tottenham colours, actually, isn't it? I haven't realised that. Yeah, bit of a mistake there.
Yeah, poor first touch.
Yeah.
And also, we've got Ryan Rocastle's son, Ryan Rocastle. Thanks for joining us,
no
Ryan.
problem. Not a problem at all.
Good stuff, good stuff. Now, Tuesday was would have been your father's 50th birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of stuff was put out on social media. Obviously, people love your father. You know, he is a legend, always will be a legend.
Yeah.
How is it for you and your family around these kind of times, these celebratory remembrance sort of times?
Yeah, I think we just got used to it now. Sort of, it's been a while since he passed away, Dad. Now, so of course it's great to see, you know, all the fans come across at this times like this, you know. And on his anniversary, that's the 2 days I always feel. Of course, like when if you lose someone, it's like every day you think about it. You know, not just on the anniversaries, but then lately, especially in the last few years, I think all the fans on social media and stuff have kind of been sharing their memories on the 2 days, which has been really nice, to be honest with you.
Was it weird initially when you were growing up?
It is. I mean, to be honest with you, it's got a bit weirder lately because
more and more people are doing it, I guess.
Yeah, because you know, when sort of back in like 2007-8, there's not really any social media, so it's kind of just the day. Of course, we'll always go to the cemetery on those 2 days, but then it's sort of in the last few years, it's been a thing where all the fans, because I think usually Arsenal will send out something on their account and. Yeah, so it's strange sometimes, but you know, as I said, on the flip side, it is really nice that he's still remembered and that.
Your father was known as a great number 7.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question now.
Yeah.
Since he's given up the number 7 shirt, who's been your favourite number 7?
There's only one answer to that.
I'd have to. Well, since he's given it up, I'd have to say Robert Pires. It's been just was one of my favourite Arsenal players. You know, the elegance he had, the style, the goals, and you know, he could score. He scored a lot of kind of goals, didn't he? He scored the special ones. He got tap-ins. Yeah, I'd say he's been one of our best.
Against Spurs as well.
He liked to score against Spurs. Yeah, he did. Yeah. You know, he scored on the day my dad died. He scored a really good goal against Spurs. But yeah, so I thought Rosicky as well was maybe we didn't see the best of him, but when he was good, he was really good to watch. So had a few. Got Sanchez now, of course.
Yeah. The current number 7.
Yeah, I mean he's
unique,
on his day. Yeah, he's fantastic. You know, obviously you've got that South American kind of drive, will to win, which maybe you could argue separates him from some of the players in our squad now. But I'd have to say Pires. Yeah, Pires for me.
Okie dokie. All right. So it's a nice way to start the discussion because now we're going to get into deep, murky waters.
Yeah.
North London derby last Sunday. You were out there. Ax, tell us, you know, your side of what happened in terms of the experience. And also a quick summary.
The experience, it wasn't too bad actually for us. We got in there very early. As I'm sort of telling you on the way in here, we left North London, Arsenal area quite early after a few beers. We got in there early, had no real problems. You know, we have a bit of a strategy now on how we get there and stuff like that, which I'm not going to share because we're going to be going there for years to come. And we got in, had a beer inside, you know, we'll talk about the game obviously in a second. And then we kind of, to be fair, we left with about a minute to go, and I've never left a game early. But funny enough, as I'm listening to more podcasts, as I'm listening to more people, everyone's saying the same thing, that they just left a minute or two early, which they don't normally do, just because I think people didn't want the aggro. You know, on a personal level, I had a sort of a wedding to get to, so I had to be out of there pretty sharpish anyway. But I think it's just the aggro stuff. You know, we've had it every year, and we come out there, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So it was just a case of get out of there quickly while they're still just, you know, celebrating, unfortunately, but celebrating, that's a fact, and just kind of sort of get out of there already. So that, in terms of an experience for me personally and people I was with, it was fine. But that was only because we left early. If we hadn't, then, you know, I'm sure we would have had the normal...
The reaction of the fans in the ground at the time, I mean, I was at the Palace game when the fans turned on the players, which was the first for us. And generally, over the last few months, you've seen the fans turn on the manager and so on and so forth. As I understand it, the fans didn't.
Yeah, no.
There was no dirty washing there on Sunday.
It was weird, actually, because, I mean, I think of it... I was at the boxing the night before, so I was on a hype. You know, I'd seen Anthony Joshua win, you know, a huge, one of the biggest fights we've seen for years. I was on this massive hype, and that continued into Tottenham as well. And the performance-wise, I don't remember it as much. I remember it not being very good. I remember it offensively not being very good. I remember, you know, but in terms of the crowd, first half, we were up for it. We were singing. We were... You know, every time they would respond anything about Arsene Wenger, we would respond back with "He's won more than you," which is our standard line there. You know, we would be singing about winning titles there. We would be doing everything we normally do. So it was quite lively in the first half. And you know, Ramsey had that shot, and it got a bit good then. And then second half, I guess their goals came so early, and their second goal came so quickly after the first. After that, it was just flat. It was just flat. It was, you know, they were singing at us. There wasn't much we could do. We knew the kind of the maths there that we were going to be below them for the first time in over 20 years. I don't think we had much there. I think we didn't want to embarrass ourselves and the club by certainly for me. I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, I didn't want to really start sort of having a go at anyone because I didn't want to embarrass Arsenal Football Club at Spurs. You know, that's our biggest rivals. There's a reason why people maybe don't bring banners and things like that, because it's Spurs. That's the game where we don't really do that. But it was just, but we were resigned. We were resigned to it. And as I said, I wasn't the only one that left with a couple of minutes to go. Loads of people did, and it was just, you know, move on, because it hasn't happened today like it hasn't happened this season. And I don't really know what else to say. It was weird.
Yeah. Ryan, coming over to you. First half, we kind of rode our luck, lived their goal, lived a charmed life. They missed two sitters, we seemed to be. I was wondering if it was another repeat of the Man City game at Wembley, where we sort of like, you know, tried to keep ourselves in the game in the second half, kick on. But how did you view it? I mean, I think we started the second half pretty well, okay-ish, better, and then, you know, of the 2 minutes of madness, the game went away from us. I mean, were you surprised at how easily we sort of succumbed to Tottenham?
I mean, I've had the unfortunate sort of watch Spurs quite a lot at White Hart. I said to Akhil last week, and they are relentless. They're very, very good. It hurts to say, but you have to say it. And they don't give away many chances. They press you so much. They have loads of shots. And I just thought on that day, pretty much from start we had a few periods, and towards the end of the first half we came into it, but I just felt they were the much better side. I thought it was weird that we didn't start Welbeck up front. I have to be honest, because the one thing Spurs probably do better than anyone is press you, and they press you really high up, and we just didn't have an out ball. You know, we couldn't put it into the channels for someone you know, to run onto and, you know, win a throw or hold the ball. From when I saw that, I was worried, and they were the much better side in the end of it. You know, if it wasn't for Petr Cech, it could have been. He probably had his best game of the season, to be honest with you. It just looked like two different. One team was real, full of confidence, completely knew what they were doing, everyone together, and the others, just a group of individuals, you know, hoping. Jamie Redknapp, it doesn't always like say what people, but he did say something where you feel like for Arsenal to score today, everything has to go right. and it was kind of like it did kind of feel like that. There just wasn't. I think Theo had that one shot at the end and it was actually a really good passing move, and that was the only like that or a set piece. Really, it looked like we'd get something, you know.
At that point, they'd probably Tottenham had settled for 2-0.
I remember saying at half time actually to the person next to me, a few friends, that I actually think Giroud's actually won headers. You know, he wasn't doing much else, but he's actually won headers. But we were so deep. We were so deep that apart from maybe Sanchez, there was no one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's actually. I was watching it with my friend, and we both said we're not actually criticising Giroud. He's never ever been the type who's going to bend his runs and, you know, work the line and things like that. He's never going to do. So it's not a criticism of him. Yeah. It's just that for that kind of game, we had absolutely no. We had to, as you said, launch ball. He might have won them. It was irrelevant in the end if he did. You know.
I remember saying to you on the podcast before that, you know, the reason why Wenger might start him is because, you know, apart from his defensive capabilities of winning headers, if we get enough players around him, he's really good at the wall pass. You know, that's one of his attributes is, you know, the wall pass and whatnot. But as Ryan had said, I mean, we all feared that his selection would be the wrong selection. And looking at it, why doesn't Welbeck start? I mean, Wenger's managed him through this period, you know. You wondered why he didn't start. Or maybe, I mean, I know Iwobi's much maligned, but he's another one that kind of takes care of the ball.
It's a weird one because Welbeck, he took an age to come back and he was very well managed. He played that game at Southampton away and we got really excited. And then we didn't really see him for a while. We thought he would start at Chelsea, he didn't. But then he started to start. He started 4 or 5 pretty much in maybe 6 or 7, you know. And then suddenly has been taken out again. So I don't know if it's a fear of his injury again. I don't know. I would have certainly started Welbeck. If I was going to start Giroud, I would have maybe sort of, you know, not been that deep. But, you know, this formation, it's still a very new formation. But with the formation, you're effectively one offensive player down when you're on the counter because your fullback should still be kind of defending, and then, you know. So you're technically still one down, and, you know, sometimes with Ozil, who wants to be on the ball a lot more in this kind of formation, because really it's only Sanchez then helping, you know, or helping the front man. So really there was no chance of getting in behind them with Giroud. So it was all about putting it to him and hoping he'll hold it up and bring people in. But the service into him was pretty poor as well. He couldn't hold those up. All he could do was try and win the header, which we said he was, but it was irrelevant because there's no one bloody near him. Indeed. So I don't know why Welbeck. You know, I would have, you know, certainly gone for that. And even what you're saying about Iwobi, you know, we all love Mesut Ozil and stuff, but actually when you've only got 2 players kind of around them and you've got your fullbacks and your one Ramsey, your midfielder, but actually Iwobi might have been a really good shout because he can travel with that football. Yeah. You know, and he's not going to get pushed off the ball against, you know, I know Dembele didn't play, but Wanyama and Dyer, with Ozil, you know, he's a bit more lightweight. Ozil needs that ball early and Ozil needs to play it early, but Iwobi can run with it.
Would you have played, hindsight's as perfect science, but would you have played Ox in the middle to get that drive and have Bellerin maybe playing the right wing-back role?
Maybe.
And you guys?
Maybe, look, I can completely see why he went with the Ox at right wing-back, because when you saw what he did to Sané and the man, I thought maybe after 60, I didn't really understand that when Welbeck came on. Where did he play? I didn't really get.
We didn't see any rhyme or reason.
No, it looked like we then went to 4-4. I would have personally, maybe on hindsight, after those 2 goals, brought the Ox on into centre midfield and brought Bellerin right. And
he went centrally eventually.
Yeah, he did. Maybe he did, but I felt after the 2-0, I didn't ever feel like we were getting back into the game.
We could be still playing now.
It just didn't feel like, did it? That
one thing some people have been saying is, no matter what the formation, whether it's 4 at the back or 5 at the back, we still concede. We still let in a lot of shots. As you were saying, Tottenham take a lot of shots. And somebody came up with a stat in the last 4 games where we played 4 at the back, we conceded 40 shots on goal. With the 5 at the back, we've actually conceded 60 shots on goal. Even though we've conceded less goals, in actual fact, we've actually conceded more shots on goal. So to me, it seems like after 20 years or so when he last played the five at the back, he doesn't know what he. I mean,
you want to be respectful, but you want to be. Well, no, I mean, with the Borough one, I think looking back at that, they had a lot of shots, but they were from pretty much. They weren't quite there. You know, they had the IR header at the end, but apart from that, they looked dangerous, but they didn't threaten. But with City and with especially Spurs, they did threaten. They did threaten. And as you say, if it was a better check, that would have been 5 or 6. So, yeah, I'm not sure about the formation. I mean, Rob Holding's the question I asked. I don't know if you're probably going to ask that, but Rob Holding's the thing I asked. That when it worked against City, when it worked well in that second half, I thought Rob Holding was one of our better players, and I thought the way he managed Sterling, Aguero, and co. Second to none.
And that's the thing, I mean, that left...
And Monreal was doing well. Sorry, just to interrupt them. Monreal was doing well where he was as well. He's come in, so...
And that's the thing, what I noticed in that game was when we pushed Monreal as left centre-back, he was a bit too close to Koscielny. Too much of a gap between him and Gibbs, and there was a moment where Gibbs and Monreal were gesticulating like, what are you supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? There seemed to be some sort of confusion as to how we play, how we set up. And for me, I think one of the key elements is the midfield. No matter if it's a 3 at the back or a 4 at the back or a 5 at the back, the midfield has to know what it's doing. And I just don't think we know what we're doing in midfield. You know, we've got Xhaka and Ramsey who are great on the ball, you know.
Most of the players are great on the ball.
Yeah, but off the ball, defensive awareness, don't seem to have it. You know, against Man City, we were lucky. We got rid of Silva, so that was one less dynamo to. You know. But Eriksen was playing really well between the lines. You knew he'd drift, he'd find the spaces. Wanyama was controlling the midfield. We had no. We just don't. I always wonder which one of our magnificent 6 midfielders that we have does have that defensive responsibility.
There isn't. You know, without a defensive side, you've got no control of the game. And that's what's happened against Spurs. We had no control of that game. Chances we created, a couple of counters where, you know, the Ramsey, the Sanchez shot wide, the Walcott shot, which is okay, but we're never in control. That was just, you know, we kind of got...
I think Arsene Wenger's philosophy of having control is mainly having the ball. And the problem we've had is, in my opinion, out of all those midfield, the only one who's capable of dealing with a really high press is Santi Cazorla. And he's been injured. If you look at our top performances against the big sides, I think he's got man of the match in the most, because he's completely controlled the midfield. I remember that performance against Man City a couple of years ago, Man United last season, even Chelsea this. But without him, there's no one. And so you say, well, you want to put Coquelin in there. Coquelin can't. There's no partner for him. There's no one, because if someone presses him, he's likely going to give it away. You know, he's just not got that skill set. Xhaka, who I think's been overly criticised this season, I don't think he's been as bad. But one thing I would say, if I look at him, what does he struggle with? Is if someone closes him down really quickly, and as I said, and he couldn't do his long passing that he would probably been his get-out ball without. There's no one to. So it just, the midfield hasn't looked right all season for me. It just hasn't looked, apart from when Cazorla was in there, it hasn't looked right.
Any combination.
That's had an impact on Ozil as well. You know, when Santi's there, Ozil was, you know, we said it on the last pod, Ozil was getting beyond the front man, because Santi Cazorla is just as good as anyone with the ball. But without Santi, Ozil keeps coming deeper to get that ball and make something happen. But then he's taking away one of our 3 offensive players there, or 4 before in the old formation. So
I didn't think. I didn't think that it had anything to do with us. I know it's an easy target. I really didn't think that it was anything to do with it. I thought he got back when he might have got back in a lazy-ish his kind of style. But I think we know with Mesut Ozil is, if you've got the players around him, that's when you get the world-class playmaker. If you haven't got that around him, he's going to look like a passenger. And I think that's, if anyone has seen him play before he joined Arsenal. And
the thing is, for me, when you're setting up like this, every man has a job. We all want to be on the ball, we all want to be progressing with the ball, but when you're in that defensive zone, that defensive phase, every man has a job. And I don't think those 2 wide players did the job effectively, especially
wide to Sanchez. Especially
Ozil. He left Ox 2-on-1 numerous occasions. You know, and people are having a dig at Ox now, saying that he's limited, blah blah blah. He was too easy. There was an opportunity. I think Son had a shot in the first half where he ran into him, and and he got the shot off and whatnot. And I just think he was just hung out to dry.
But it goes down to what do you want from Mesut Ozil? Do you want him to be running back, tracking back, and clearing the ball, or do you want him sort of personally, I'm a big fan because I want when he gets on the ball, I'm hopeful that he'll be able to. Even actually, he did. I remember he did play. I know this is real slim pickings, but I remember he did play a real clever ball to Ramsey on the edge of the box. You kind of just side-footed it into. No one talks about it. And it's just so for me. I've always been a fan of him because I'm not too bothered about what he does defensively. Of course, I'd rather him run back and chase back, but I'm not going to. We haven't brought him for that. We've not brought him to. We brought him to provide a spark, but for him to provide a spark, he needs he needs runners. He needs players who he's going to be confident that they can take it under pressure and give him a 1-2 or something like that.
I'll tell you what, there was a classic El Clasico on a couple of weeks ago before the real Clasico that came on. Semi-final weekend on the Thursday, I think, and it was from a couple of years ago when Mesut was there. And it's a different sort of, whenever he had the ball, they just knew. Ronaldo went, Benzema went, they all went, and then Ozil found them. They didn't all lead to goals, obviously, but it's a different sort. It's a different class, but they're runners. We have people like Theo Walcott, Welbeck, Sanchez, who are quick, who can, But at the moment, there's something there that's just not happening. I think we've prioritised the defensive aspect of it, obviously, by having three at the back. But as you say, it's not quite working, and the expense of offensively, which is the problem.
Okay, so we're licking our wounds, and then lo and behold, we've got Mr. Mourinho on Sunday. The last person Wenger probably wanted to face after that. Manchester United, even though they've been on a 28-game run of 28 draws or whatever it is, and they're walking wounded. I think they're dropping like flies. You can never be too sure that Wenger's going to get one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we went up there, didn't we? Yeah. We're facing this with a lot of trepidation. Coming to you first, Axe. Do you see Wenger sticking with this formation, or will he change it up and go a bit more offensive and try and win the game on the front foot rather than?
I think that's a great question, by the way. And I've been thinking about this all day, to be fair. I'm thinking, I've looked at it from the Man United point of view. I think their result tomorrow night in Spain is huge, because if they've got a tie to chase, suddenly Sunday becomes less important for them. If they've got the away goal, they've got a draw or a win there, it's a little bit easier for them. In terms of injuries, I think Pogba, Smalling, Phil Jones are back in training.
Bailey's out, isn't
but no, Bailey's back in training too. Okay. Yeah, apparently one matters close, but they didn't mention him. But those four, Bailey included, they're all in training, which means you would think if they don't start on Thursday, they'll certainly be back for Sunday. But yeah, I mean, that's when we played Leicester here. For me, and I'm not a massive football expert, I'm just like everyone else, just a supporter, but it looked to me that formation on the road and maybe against big teams is great, but against teams like Leicester at home, it's just, maybe because of confidence, maybe we had to do that just to get that win, to win it dirty a little bit. Against Man United, obviously, they are a big team, but we know what Mourinho's like. We know that Mourinho is probably one of the most defensive big club managers, because that's his thing. He'll come and he'll probably will sit back and want us to come to them and want to, get us on the break and win 1-0. We'll be chuffed with that. So it could be a very dull game if we play the 5 and then it's got 0-0 written all over it. So, I mean, when we have played these teams at home, Chelsea this season, Man United last season, we've done it on the front foot. And for me, that's where I would go back. I would want your Mesut Ozils, your Alexis Sanchez's to be feeling comfortable where they've been playing all season. I would love Danny Welbeck to start again. He's got Okay, maybe now with Louis van Gaal gone, the sting has slightly maybe come out of it because it was Louis van Gaal we had the problem with for selling him. But, you know, potentially even bring Walcott back. The problem with this new formation is you can't play someone like Theo Walcott. And I know people have a go at Walcott. And against when he came on against Leicester, against Spurs, he did nothing. And, you know, I totally appreciate that. But he scored 19 goals this season. He does score in big games, but he can't play in this current new formation, which tells me maybe at home, go back to the old one, go back to 4 at the back, go back to what you know, play Mesut in the middle, and then just then the decision is who's your 2. Xhaka and Ramsey as a 2 without the 3 at the back. I don't know if that will work. Maybe you got to change it. Maybe you got to go with an El Neni. I don't know.
Would you have Alexis up front for Sunday?
Yeah,
and then Welbeck on the left.
Yeah, I'd have to say.
Yeah.
We've looked a better side with Sanchez up front. I think on the left as well. Him personally, I find him a little bit frustrating on the left because he doesn't look after the ball well enough. Cuts inside. He can, of course, capable. But in his time at Arsenal, the most that I've enjoyed watching him would have been between August and December this year when he was up front. He was going left, right. He was against West Ham that game when he came short and he'd go past 3. You know, we played him some through balls and he got one-on-ones. I think I'd be if he does go for the 3 at the back, I think he's got to go back to what he did against Man City. I think having Gibbs there and Monreal, it's too defensive. I think go back. You have Monreal at left wing back where he had his best game of the season against Man City. Bring Holding back into the centre, and then I'd be tempted to make a slight tactical change, as in have 2 up top. Yeah. You know, instead of it sort of being a 3-4-3 with like Sanchez, go play Sanchez up top and stick him up top, and play Özil in the number 10 role, and have your 2 centre midfielders sort of doing your cut. I know it's a little bit of a.
So it's like a 5-2.
So it's like it's kind of like a 3. It's like what
3-4-1-2.
Your fullbacks.
Yeah, sort of. The fullbacks. Yeah. I just
4-1-2.
Yeah, kind of more like that because I think Man United are. Yeah, it's a bit. But I just think they are gonna be nowhere near as threatening as Spurs or even Man City going forward. You know, you said at the start, are we going to see Arsenal attack more? Well, we definitely are because Man United will give us more of the ball. It's just about what we do with it, you know.
Psychologically,
that's the problem, isn't it?
How do you see us addressing this issue? Because obviously there's the Wenger thing, but it's also the psychology of the players. You know, getting them. You know, after the Crystal Palace defeat, Wenger said it needed change. It just needed to change it to give them something.
We all saw that.
Yeah. So coming up to Sunday now, psychologically, how do we empower our players?
Again, I was thinking of that today, and when it was just now actually in the Evening Standard, James Ollier wrote a piece about Mourinho and Wenger and all that sort of stuff, and you know how Mourinho would love to beat him. I think the story was about shaking his hand forever, sort of thing, you know. And it was just like, if I was a player looking at that, I would just think like, you know, forget who the manager is, whoever he's saying that about my manager. Geez, I want to go out there and I want to stick one on him because, you know, and his team, because this is what he's saying about my manager. But up till probably a couple of months ago, I would have definitely thought the players would be like that. But now I don't think he's lost the players. I'm not going as far as that. I just think a bit of what we said, maybe they don't know what they're doing as much. But now I'm even questioning that, you know, how much are they willing to fight? Not just for the manager, for the club, for themselves. Because we saw it at Palace. There's a couple that do, but you know, how much are they willing to go that extra mile and think, you know what, we're not going to lose this? I saw a bit in the semi-final, by the way. Saw a bit in the semi-final, the second half, sorry.
Went down.
Extra time, it was all because it went for us. We got that equaliser. It was suddenly a bit more positive, and then there was things, and everyone got on. You know, we talked about it in the pod when we scored that second goal. They were all there, all the players. We looked united, but then we went back on Saturday and Sunday, and we looked broken again. So psychologically, I don't know. I just think you have to play where the players are comfortable, what they know all season, what they've done, where, you know, like we said, we don't know what they're doing, but where they know as much as they can know, go back to that, go back to what you know, go back to what's worked in the past, and then just hope for the best. You know, I don't know what else we can do or say.
What about you, Ryan? How do you see it?
Well, I mean, firstly, there's the issue. The top four is if we beat Man United, there's still. I feel if we don't win that, then it's completely over. Whereas if you beat Man United,
there's still a chance.
There's still a chance.
We still have hope.
So you've got that, but it's just a bit like what Akhil said. Your personal pride here. You're playing Manchester United. I feel I definitely. I don't think the players have given up or are not playing for the manager.
Dressing room.
But what you'll notice, I always feel that we start off fine, but when we lose a goal in this team, it really drops their heads when the other day when a couple of their players were starting on Theo, there's no one around to protect. It's driving me crazy because why aren't our players sticking up for each other? You know, we scored that West Brom scored that header. They've all got their hands up. They're all like blaming. It doesn't feel
blame culture,
like that. And as you said, against Man City, I saw some of that fight and that togetherness, and that's what I think a lot of this season is. It's not that we're losing really. It's just the manner, if you know what I mean, in how we're losing. We don't seem like we're losing as a team. It feels like we're losing, and then you've got. Sanchez blaming everyone. The players. I know this isn't a big deal for some, but some of the players just walking off after defeats. That's not right, in my opinion. That you have a loss. You all go over to the away fans together. You clap them off. Whether you get stick back or not, kind of tough because that's the away fans. That's your core following, and then you leave the field. I just feel like this team hasn't shown enough of that fight, and I want to see that again on Sunday.
Do you think the Man City game was an anomaly then? Like the fight that we went one down, we got our noses bloodied, we picked ourselves straight back up, got out there. We were the stronger team.
You got to say it was. Looking at the last 10 games, of course it was. It was the only time we've done that. What was that? There was a stat about when we've gone one down, we've only won a couple of games in the last 20 or 30. It was ridiculous. And I think it was. You have to say that was against, that wasn't the norm.
Trend,
That was totally against the trend. What you want is how do you make that the trend? How do you make that, your reaction to going down all the time, which I don't know the answer to. Just on what you said about when Wilcott's getting pushed and people, the most irritating thing for me is we have a few of them in the squad, but they're the players that we just Francis Coquelin will always get in someone's face. Gabriel will get in someone's face. But the problem, but the problem is, okay, Xhaka's played, but the other two aren't real regulars. And that all our people that will get into your face and help you are bloody sitting on the bench. So we need a bit of. You just want to clone two players, put them together, and think, go on, mate. Go out. You play how you play. You play like Santi Cazorla, but behave like Francis Coquelin. Without getting sent off and without being an idiot.
It feels like I'm having a go at Sanchez, even though he's had a great. But I see him. He's shouting at our player and he's getting upset. I don't see him doing that when other players are shouting back. Do you know what I mean?
Players,
at our players, I don't see him going over
faces,
and getting in their faces. And it is annoying me a bit that we're not showing this togetherness. And I don't really know how you fix that kind of thing.
We talked about professional pride, and whether we reach top four or not, the next 5 games, as far as I'm concerned, every player has to stake a claim for that cup final place. So that's an incentive. We've got after Man U, we've got Stoke and Southampton. We've got Southampton and Stoke away, and we've got Sunderland, and then we end up with Everton. If I'm a player, I'm thinking, right, I've got to make sure that I give the manager something to think about in each of those 5 games because I want to play in that cup final. Surely you expect the players to actually galvanise, or even just at this basic core level, to play for the pride of the shirt, to play for that professional integrity, not lose belief, somehow pull up that, extra intangible, whatever you want to call it, and do the best that you can. I mean, do you see it going like? Do you see?
You know, I would put the top 4 to one side for a little while and think 5 games left, cup final, absolutely spot on, and think, you know what, I'm going to be ruthless for these 5 games. You know, I'm going to be absolutely ruthless because it's just for 5 games, and if they want to play in my cup final team, they've got to show it. So if I put Rob Holding in this week and then he has a good game, he's staying in that team. Don't care if Mustafi comes back. Don't care at all. There's only probably, I would say, 2/3 players that are probably, in my eyes, if you're going to be ruthless, are going to be in that cup final team, and that's Petr Cech, who performed at White Hart Lane, but just because with Ospina going, Lauren Koscielny, who I think is always quite professional. And the other one you'll say is Alexis Sanchez, but then I would still want to be slightly ruthless with him as well and say, well, if you have 5 really poor games where you're moody, you're miserable, you're giving it away, you're not doing anything, then why should you play in the cup final? Why shouldn't someone like Danny Welbeck, who gives it 100%, why should he start instead? That's what I would want, ruthless.
He's made a very good point. Wenger seems to trust certain players.
Yeah.
And if you have trust, if a player feels trusted, they might be a bit complacent.
Yeah.
Do you think it's time for Wenger to actually be ruthless and actually show these players, these certain players that think they've got it, easy, that actually your place is up for grabs and actually you might not be in the squad, let alone the team?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see him be like that because I think he takes a lot of the blame for them, and I don't feel like they've always given him. They've shown that that on with the performance. The other day when he at Anfield when he drops, I would have taken him out of the whole squad completely, because if you feel like he's not treating the way, and from what I've heard, that was he had been unacceptable that day on training, then you've got to show, you can't do it half-heartedly or put him on the bench and bring him out the squad completely. And then I think the fans as well, even those who are no longer, who have turned against that, would be on side with that, because at the end of the day, you have to have morals and standards that that you live by. So yeah, if he wanted to go out, I mean, it's quite easy for us to say because Arsene's probably thinking, well, I've lost a lot of the fan base. The last thing I want to do is lose sort of these players that trust me. But he is if he feels like he's fighting for his job, you might feel like he's got nothing to lose and do that.
You see it a little bit. Someone like Theo Walcott's the greatest example. He was in the team. He was in the team all season, pretty much apart from injuries. But recently he's been out of the team. Whether it's the comments at Palace about they wanted it more than us, which Arsene Wenger said is unacceptable. Whether it's the formation, but Walcott's not now in the team, and he's our second top goal scorer. So you see a little bit of ruthlessness at times, but then you don't see it enough. You don't see it enough. I would have no qualms if Mesut Ozil was on the bench this Sunday, because he's had a few poor games.
Do you think though that contract situations play a part in whether Ozil plays or not? I mean, he's given Ozil time off for what I understand was a flu, hamstring, book sales, everything. Flu again. His knees, whatever. He seems to do. Obviously, I've seen the Bayern Munich. He was devastated by the Bayern Munich loss. I mean, come on, for me, you're a professional footballer.
Yeah.
Get over it. You've got a job to do. We're paying you to do a job.
Yeah.
Devastated. Take it out the next opponent.
Yeah. You'd like to see.
I mean, with the contract thing, it's. I don't think it does as such, because we've had Van Persie, Fabregas, Fabregas may be slightly different, but Van Persie played until the final game and played. He was professional. Let's be honest, he was professional until that West Brom game. He was, and Wenger there was never even a hint of anything going wrong there. So I don't think the contract thing. But I think if your performances start dropping, then contract or no contract, you shouldn't be in that team. Whether you're Mesut Ozil, Alexis Sanchez, or Kieran Gibbs, Or
do you think it plays a part? No, I mean, we think we shouldn't.
No, I don't think it does.
Do you agree with that, Ryan?
I'd agree. Yeah, I'd say I think for Ozil, I think he's got. Arsene feels the best way to manage him is probably succumb to his demands a little bit, let him have a week off. Now, it's quite interesting if that is the best, because I know I've not seen it all, but I know I've seen from extracts from his book that certainly wasn't the way Mourinho thought was the best. And I think at Real Madrid, he was the most substituted player, because he, you know, if he weren't sort of putting that effort in towards the end. But I just feel like Arsene's managing how he thinks is the best. We know he doesn't like confrontation. Everyone who's played under him has basically said that. So he doesn't want to get himself into a situation where he's got to be in that kind of situation with one of his top players. So I don't. It's not something I've really thought about too much, whether the contracts plays a part, but I'd imagine no.
If I was Mesut Ozil, I mean, we're picking on Mesut Ozil here, which isn't fair, but you know, just using him as an example. Yeah, whoever it is. If I'm out of contract, or if I've got a year left where I know there's, you know, whatever, I'd be thinking, I want to be, if I'm going to leave, I'm an Alexis Sanchez, I want to be in the shop window, or if I want more money here, I need to perform. And it just seems like, if Mesut Ozil wants to sign, Mesut Ozil will have a contract in front of him and will sign, you know, and that's the thing. Whereas actually, a little bit like the Wenger thing, potentially, you know, there's rumours that, you know, that contract's not on the table at the moment, and actually at the end of the season they're going to decide, and that's kind of the board just taking it a bit outside of Arsene Wenger's hands, saying, actually, hang on, let's see what happens. Same should really be done with someone like Mesut Ozil, and say, well, actually, and Alexis Sanchez, and say, actually, attitude, performances, we're going to take that contract out, forget that. And they have said they'll talk in the summer, and then actually say, actually, you know what have you done?
So that is, Ox has been playing quite well recently and still has no contract offer on the table.
Nah.
Really quickly before we wrap up, first of all, predictions?
0-0. I mean, I don't know. 0-0 or 1-0 to one of the teams. I don't think there'll be many. I think there'll be a bit of nerves there.
Very conclusive.
You, Ryan?
I think we'll beat them Sunday. It'll be a narrow. There won't be many goals in it, but I just think with them having this game on Thursday and then next Thursday, and then us, being at home against the big clubs, I think we've been okay in the last day. Yeah, I just think I think we could. I wouldn't put any money on it. I wouldn't be confident, but if you were to ask me, I'd say just us narrowly.
All right.
And yourself?
Draw or loss. I'm sorry to say, I've all the faith, everything's gone out of me.
It's gone.
You know, it's gone. Really quickly, transfer news, transfer business. Alexis, do you think he's going? Apparently, Bayern Munich have started negotiations with his representatives. Do you think he's off?
I don't think he'll sign. I'm not sure if he's off, but I don't think he'll sign. If that basically means he might see out the year, potentially. I think there's a lot around what happens above him, below him, everywhere around him.
Giroud, apparently Marseille haven't made contact for him, but if they do you think he stays? I know his agent said that he was thinking about staying at Arsenal and continuing the project. Obviously, they're talking about just sitting down at the end of the season and seeing how things go. But I mean, if Marseille comes in with a bid, what do you think? What's your?
Are you asking me if Marcel come in? Does he want to go, or would I get rid of him?
Yeah, from an Arsenal. or what do you think will happen?
It's really hard because I really like Oli coming off the bench, but when he starts, I feel like it affects our whole. Yes, if a good bid came in for him, I'd let him go, and I'd look at bringing in someone more mobile, more perhaps. Yeah, but he wouldn't be my. No way am I saying he'd be my first choice out. He wouldn't. If someone said he stays next year, am I going to be unhappy? No, I'd be fine with it. Yeah. It's not like I really want him to leave, but probably if push came to shove, I'd say yeah.
All right, so on that happy note, I want to thank both Akhil for coming on again and special guest Ryan Rocastle. It's been a pleasure having you on, and all the best in the future. And that's been a Goon Around Ball video podcast. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, comment, and catch us on all the channels. And we'll be back with you soon. Thanks for watching.
Up the Arsenal.
Up your Arsenal.